Hi, it's Jason from Let's Automate, and today we're going to look at Airtable. Now, Airtable is definitely one of my favorite tools. I use it as the hub for pretty much all of the automations. It's great for storing any kinds of data, manipulating data, using that for centrally triggering automations. So in this example, we're going to look at how I use it to collect content for my newsletter and automate the newsletter. So we're just going to focus on the Airtable side of things. So if that's something you're interested in, then stay tuned and we'll jump straight in. Okay, so we're logged into Airtable and we're going to concentrate on this database here. So this is the database I use to manage my weekly newsletter. And I have 4 tables in here. So I have ideas for tutorials, newsletter content, newsletter, and newsletter ratings. I also have a tools and service, which I'll touch upon later. So the way I use this is throughout the week, I will collate information that I see that I think will be worthy of the newsletter, and also ideas for the video tutorial. So this is the first table here. So as I go throughout the week and I have ideas for the tutorial, or I get some feedback that somebody wants to see something in particular, then I will enter it into here. And the way I enter it into here is I use the Airtable form. So you can create grid views, different kinds of views in Airtable, and one of them is to create a form. So if I just show you briefly there, if we click on idea for videos, it takes me to this form I've created based on this table, and then I just fill that in. So the idea name, YouTube title, YouTube description. Now these are quite important because the next stage of this is to automate the newsletter and to automate the posting of the YouTube videos when I create them. So this video will be saved, dropped into a folder, and then an automation will read this information here, publish it to YouTube with the title and the description, and then mark it as sent. So that's something we'll do later. Okay, so this is an entry we have here, so demonstrate this Airtable. So this is the video we're actually doing now. So this was populated through the form. It's an idea status, although it's going to be changed. The tools used, the newsletter that it's going to feature in, and then the YouTube title and description that we just talked about. Also, there's the space for the URL. Once it's been published, we can populate this information here. So as I think of something, I add them in there, and they can be then chosen for different newsletters. So that takes care of the video side of things. Also in the newsletter, there's content, so there's tools, news, and any other business. And the way I populate this is through something called the Airtable Clipper. The Clipper is really good, saves a lot of time. Rather than me populate all this information into here, I can use the Clipper. So I'll demonstrate that. If we go to a site, so let's imagine we go to this site here, Trueform. We like it. I want to feature this in the newsletter. Then what I can do is highlight this information here, click on the Airtable Clipper, which has been configured, and then tell it to add this information to the newsletter content. So as I do that, it picks up the name from the name of the tab here. It's got the URL, and then the data that we highlighted is pasted to here. So all we need now is just an image, which we can either add the image from the page, or we can just grab a screenshot. So we're just going to go, okay, let's select that logo, and that's it. We're going to add that record. So we're back here now after adding that, and if we look down here under tools, we have this record here that we've just added in there. Because we've got the created date as well, you can do some clever things. So we're now deriving the week number, so we know what newsletter this is going to be for, just based on the created date. So we gather tools, there's news, there's any other business, and there's also the opening blurb. So in the newsletter, at the beginning of the newsletter, there's just some text about what the newsletter content is. So that's added into here. So if we look at this one here, this is going to be the title of the newsletter, and then there's some information in here about the newsletter. This again is important because the next stage of this, as I said, is to automate the newsletter. So it's going to read all this information and construct the newsletter. It's going to send it out and upload the video. So it's all about minimizing how long things take. You know, this newsletter from the beginning takes a long time. But if you can automate more and more things, the things that you do repetitively, then you can save a lot of time and just focus on actually doing the content. Okay, so if we come over to here then, into the newsletter now, we're going to build a newsletter. So we have a title for the newsletter. We have the week number, which is week 9. The status of the newsletter is pending, so we haven't sent it yet. So there's no sent date. And now we just need to add content. So we need to allocate from our content that we've been collecting what we want to appear in this newsletter. But what we can do, we can click on here now. We can say, okay, let's have this type form. And also let's have, let's have a look what we've got at the bottom here. Another tool, so we'll have parabola in there. So we have 2 tools allocated to the newsletter now. The newsletter title, so this is going to be the email that gets sent out. So we're building the title here from formulas. And then we look at the tools used. So before we look at tools used, we need to pick a tutorial. So which tutorial are we going to feature in this newsletter? So we click add, and again, we're going to link back to this table here. We're going to find the tutorial. So this is the one, and we're going to allocate it to this newsletter. And then we're just going to add the tool. So we're going to be using Airtable. And that's it for this video. We're going to be using Zapier and things like that to send this, but we're just going to cover the Airtable side of things. Okay, so I have everything I need for my newsletter now. If I go back to ideas for tutorials and I look at the one we just selected, we can see now that this has been allocated to newsletter number 9, so it doesn't get reallocated again. And if we look at this one here, let's select that. We can see that week 9 is allocated to this. So this again doesn't get allocated again. So that's it. We have everything we need for the newsletter. So the next thing to do would be to trigger a zap that's then going to collect this information. So it's going to get the title, it's going to get the email title, it's going to upload the video once it's dropped into a certain folder with the YouTube title, the YouTube description on there. And it's going to populate the newsletter with all the content that we've selected from here. So that's about as much as you can automate. So the next things for me to do that I'm working on is just to update the information once it's been sent. So once the YouTube video has been posted, we'll be able to run something that queries YouTube. It'll find the video of that name, and then it will just change this status to complete. So that's it. I mean, Airtable's a really powerful tool. This is just an example of how I use it for one thing, but for all your automations, this is a great tool. So you should definitely check it out if you haven't already. And I hope that this has been useful for you. Okay, so that's it. So that's how I automate my newsletter. And I know this has been very quick and not much detail on Airtable on how to create this, but I just wanted to show you what you can do. If you have any questions or you need some help setting something like this up, then contact me and I'll be happy to help. So for now, thanks for listening.